Right now, we should be firmly entrenched in a magnificently ludicrous Fantasticomania tour. El Desperado should be walking through the swinging door with Namahage walking almost seamlessly as El Desperado walks out. Rajan and Fujin should be engaged in some of the most sincere babyface energy conceivable and rewarded with literally every backstage comment insufficient, in succulently referring to them as Tanaka and Komatsu. Crowd should be politely acknowledging Luciferno and Euphoria at a loss for the alternative reaction. This is where we should be in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And goddamn it, I miss Fantasticomania. I'm going to be 100% real. So this is the middle child in the first leg of the new beginning tour, excuse me. And it's English is essentially indistinguishable from the show that preceded it. This was entirely predictable, considering there's a 3-set Korakuen Hall shows that we had here. Nearly identical with minor shuffling. That's what we got. This is the third night of this leg, so we might as well go ahead into the first match that we had on this show. The first match, it featured action from the United Empire. Was, I believe, the Great Okan and Will Ospreay taking on Yuya Uemura and Satoshi Kojima right here. So if you haven't seen Kojima's backstage comment from New Year's Dash, it was phenomenal. Go check it out. The Pharaoh Rage and Leishan's response to his partner's obliteration was alone enough to sustain this tour, in my honest opinion. And it would have to be considering Ospreay's work in the opposition. During last night's backstage comment, or the previous night's backstage comment, Ospreay dubbed Kojima a BET per usual. Will Ospreay did not have the decency to leave things unexplained, thus allowing us to use our imaginations to derive something more clever to what he intended. He made damn sure that we understood what BET meant. It was an acronym for bread-eating twat. Man, Will Ospreay's a fucking asshole. On the other end, we got Great Okan, who continues to rule in every facet of pro wrestling to the dismay and the befuddlement of the wide and clueless Philistines. Okan uses the royal word liberally backstage, in the comments and interviews. He takes that shit literally, peppering his comments with metaphors about taxation and peasantry. But what kind of taxes are we talking about here, Okan? Just let me know, what kind of taxes? So that's what I'm trying to talk about here. So, anyway, Uemura, of course, is fiery throughout this, but the limited crowd was completely languid, only rustling whenever Uemura went on his run. This happened twice, both times were brief. Uemura got significantly less offense than Yota Tsuji did the night before. Kojima, to his credit, was also enthusiastic, but it was hard to get a grasp on anything considering how disengaged the crowd seemed to be, in my opinion. Neither Ospreay or Okan controlled Uemura for the resounding who controlled Uemura, for the resounding majority of this match. They didn't do really think too spectacular. It was nice that we got to see a future Wrestle Kingdom main event between Yuya Uemura and Great Okan, in my opinion. Khan cut the micless promo after the match like he usually does by the United Empire throwing up their unit's hand sign, which looks like something from the New York Times article that decoded symbols found hidden in the invasion of the Capitol Hill. So they might need to rethink that hand sign. We talking about that here right now, but I was thinking that when they threw it up, but it is what it is. Next match, we get Doki, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, El Desperado, and Minoru Suzuki defeating Jado, Geto, El Phantasmo, and Taiji Ishimori. So once again, if there's anything you can count on at the top of this review, in my opinion, is how much El Desperado's merch is shown in the crowd throughout his entrance. That's something you can definitely count on. By my count on yesterday's show, there were 3 Desperado bears, 8 towels/shirts, signs, and 3 face masks. Today there were 6 towels/banners, 3 Desperado bears, and someone wearing a full mask. Also, for those keeping track, and I'm assuredly the only one doing this, it took 2 minutes and 30 seconds before we saw our first El Desperado bear on screen. And in another little way, by the way, Suzuki Gun came out to El Desperado's music. It was kind of surreal to see Minoru Suzuki coming out to anything but Kazai ni Nair. But that feeling was briefly held as Suzuki stormed the ring to attack the Bullet Club and attempt to extract the infamous loaded boot of El Phantasmo. So that's what we got. El Phantasmo's boot's been something of, recent speculation. I sincerely hope anyone listening to this podcast is satisfied by the old school conceit of the loaded boot and favorable it to being the principal angle in New Japan Pro Wrestling right now. Otherwise, you're in for an exceedingly long year, in my opinion. I'm not sure how long they intend to extend this loaded boot story to propel ELP, but considering the heights to which they're going to push him, it could be very long indeed. He probably will win the best of the Super Junior with the loaded boot, and maybe get the title from Hiromu Takahashi with the loaded boot. Continue to clean normally sane wrestling fans, easy for me to say, and able to find common ground on the parameters of good heat with the loaded boot. If we're looking at the pairings here, it appears that Kanemaru was paired off with El Phantasmo, Desperado Ishimori. Doki has carried over his feud with Jado. That began in the heavyweight tag title scene over the juniors. That leaves the incredibly Minoru Suzuki to pair off with Geto this tour. Yay! Suzuki's role here is to slap these fucking juniors around with idiosyncratic menace, and he filled that well, though he technically lasted all of 45 seconds in official ring time. So the purpose of these Road 2 shows is to provide a restrained glimpse toward future matches, and things certainly ended up well for the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship match, in my opinion. The sequence between the tag champs and Phantasmo and Kanemaru was fluid, rousing, and captivating. ELP for the second night in a row crumbled El Desperado with a loaded boot to the abdomen, which El Desperado sowed with typically excessive vigor. I loved it. And then, because Suzuki Gun versus Bullet Club matches tend to rule, he poked ELP's eye in response, and he was still selling. So the backstage comments from the night before made it very clear that this boot business is not going to be an angle imbued with subtext. ELP went on for 3 goddamn minutes about his bloody shoe and the impossibility that it contained anything other than, shit that contains shoes. Kanemaru, in some delicious irony, vowed to unveil the despicable measures of Phantasmo, while Desperado lamented, "I feel as though my insides have shifted." So that was pretty hilarious right here. So Desperado managed to stave off the pain caused by the kick from El Phantasmo, trapped Geto in a numero dos for the submission victory. Desperado instantaneously clutched his gut in agony after the submission because he is extraordinary. Geto implored ELP and Ishimori to avenge his forfeiture. Actually, he demanded that they, quote-unquote, fuck him up. So that was really, really funny. So next match we get Yoshihashi, Tomohiro Ishii, Kazuchika Okada defeating Dick Togo, Yujiro Takahashi, and Evil. So, in his backstage comments on January 17th, Hiroki Goto wondered to where the quote-unquote down and out Jay White has run off to. This seemed to be beginning stages of some merciless taunting, and yet he followed this by saying if White had come to him, he would have taught him how to keep getting back up. This is how the second member in Chaos proved some hard-boiled encouragement to White since his Tokyo Dome meltdown. As stated here at the beginning of the podcast and beginning of this match, the entire match, the stretches of this match here, with an entrenched Bullet Club team facing off against Okada and a rotation of the Chaos 6-man tag team champions, right now is utterly pointless. At the earliest, Okada and Evil would face off would be Castle Attack. The earliest Okada and Evil face off would be either New Beginning, which are not happening, or a Castle Attack. 6 weeks and 3 major events from this feud will run the show. Okada has challenged Evil in his backstage comments, but unless there is a major swerve in his scheduling, these matches are nebulous at previews at best. Okada seemed to have a robust support. The very sensible people with Desperado merch in a previous match now excitedly displayed Okada merch. So they was double dipping right here. Okada came out wearing a shiny robe and skirt with a new pattern that he unveiled at Wrestle Kingdom. So that was pretty cool. Let me see what we get here. The match had the highest level of fan engagement the entire night. No wonder the king of the Kouraken Hall, Yoshihashi, was in a large portion of this match. It's easy to point out the source of these things when we have so many fixed points in a series of matches in the same building. Yoshihashi can be easily ascertained as a legit resource for crowd energy and commitment. When examining the differences between the matches and from this night and the night before, he's literally the biggest factor. His genuine fervor evoked the first spontaneous crowd reaction of the night. Conversely, when Ishii gets the crowd fired up and the crowd goes dead fucking silent when Yujiro Takahashi cuts him off, that itself is another substantive expose right there. So that's something we could probably delve into a little deeper, but we're not going to. So fortunately, this match was one match on the card that generated proper conditions. Not unfortunately, fortunately. For some post-match interplay, but unfortunately it was one of the ones with absolutely no rationale justification for it, in my opinion. So that is what it is. All right, next match we got, guys. We have Hiromu Takahashi, Tetsuya Naito, and Sanada defeating Sho, Tamaki Homa, and Kota Ibushi. So the night before, Homa looked very much out of it, and because there's already a sense of unease surrounding him since his return, when something like that happens, it's naturally amplified. But from what I can determine, trouble began near the end of the match. LIJ did the gauntlet of corner runs like every other stable in the match. It looked to me like Shingo really walloped Hama on his turn. Subsequently, Hama and Naito looked very much out of rhythm, in my honest opinion. Naito did a stat mirror on him, and Hama just looked like he was struggling to sit up. It was completely dire, in my opinion. Hama just looked adequate tonight. His movement is no better or worse than normal since his return, but even at his best, his reaction speed is severely diminished. His steps are short and choppy and has trouble twisting and manipulating. So it's been, I just ultimately really at this point don't want to fucking see it. Seeing Ibushi come out with the championships is still just like a sight of disgust to me, so I'm not even going to talk about that too much. Kota Ibushi at this point, he's at the pinnacle of the company, the apex of professional wrestling, and he's honestly the champion of champions. So it's also refreshing to see that he actually cares about the belt, so that's cool. He wants to put one on, wants to carry one on the shoulder, so that's fine. That's all to the good. So congrats and, pat on the back for Kota Ibushi. This match ultimately was a respectful affair, in my opinion. Naito doesn't really have a chance to troll anyone because his inclusion is perfunctory at best. The result is a typically house show Naito performance on this tour. He's by necessity paired off with Tomoaki Honma. This is slightly less appropriate than Minoru Suzuki being married to Geto on this tour, but not by much. And after last night, I'm going to have to reassess that evaluation. Naito was amused by the way they botched the inverted DDT spot, but I legit thought Honma's legs had given out at that point. And at the end, Naito had to do all the work on the Destino for the first time in ages. Here's to LIJ recreating the sequence here's to LIJ correcting that sequence that we're going to have many, many nights in this new beginning tour. So let's hopefully we can correct that. Sonata eventually put Honma away with the skull in. And yeah, this match was adequate. Naito blamed some spots on the Young Lions. It was adequate. This match is ultimately pretty fucking adequate. So there's not really much more that I need to say about this. Next, we have the main event. It is Master Wato and Hiroshi Tanahashi defeating Bushi and Shingo Takagi. So it's crazy that Master Wato and Bushi are the main event anchors for the stretch of the Korakuen Hall shows. So it's just really, really weird. Wato, he's really changed up things a little bit. He's darkened his color palette. He had like he was once an Azura imbecile in my opinion. Now he has graduated to a Cobalt geek. But this looks much better on him. His robe is considerably better than the last one that he had, so good on him. The darker pants also suit him much more favorably. So, considering that Wato's biggest main event thus far was concluded with a stumbly jackknife on Desperado, that's the successful one that deserves mention, excuse me. Likewise, honestly, Wato, he performed really well in this match. There was a strange moment where it looked like he tried to deliver some kind of adjacent drop kick, but otherwise, it was well done. His adorably self-deprecating interplay with Sho in the post-match, each trying to leave each other with the last word, was pretty wonderful. So I thought that's kind of cool. Tanahashi came out sporting the blonde, swoopy nonsense hair he had on night one. So we have that. This match has some utterly bizarre juxtapositions. Master Wato Shingo was a very unnerving pair. Tanahashi Bushi is his, I don't even know, abomination. Bushi should be forced to account out rather than share the ring with the goddamn ace. And I love Bushi, but come on. To be honest, Tanahashi Shingo should be they're outlandish and outstanding coupling at the same time. The manufactured brightness of Tanahashi and the searing zeal of Shingo seem incompatible on the surface, but yet everything suggested they're going to produce something legitimately special here in Nagoya. There was one breathtaking sequence, in my opinion, that ended with Tanahashi delivering a sling blade to Shingo. Shingo no-selling it, popping back up, hitting a glorious pumping bomber right here. This match ended at its absolute peak. Tanahashi had Bushi in a Texas cloverleaf, so Shingo hit a strong pumping bomber to the back of Tanahashi's head. When Shingo went for the regular pumping bomber, he met Master Wato's excellent diving European uppercut. Wato followed up with another executed tornillo, allowing Tanahashi to high fly flow. Pretty decent stuff here. It's just like I said, this is the middle leg of this tour right here, so it's going to be okay at best. This was a decent show. So post-match, Tanahashi's offering Wato a guitar, so Wato joins the Ace in his traditional celebration, and as expected, Wato looked very much like a robotically disjointed rhythmic guitar player, in my opinion. He looked like a fucking robot, bro. Wato's wrists and fingers appeared petrified as his strum pattern of looking like a legit assault on his strings and his pickups. In the backstage comment, Tanahashi looked like he was delivering an archetype smiling confidence promo, so I listened to it a little bit, but then I started skipping a mere 10 seconds, though. Somehow in those 10 seconds, Tanahashi shifted to an early cry. Ball ace is more than like it instead of go ace. So my final thoughts of this night 3. With inferior action to night 1 and deficient story progression, you can comfortably skip this card, in my opinion. You can skip night 3. There's nothing distinct about this show to separate it from night 1. Although there were some fun pairings, every match provided ample reason to believe that all of the major New Beginning matches are going to be excellent. So If you have to, you can skip this. This is not a show you must watch. Hell, I feel like I should have skipped this shit, but it is what it is. We are SOS Wrestling Network. I'm the puroresu Fly God. I am Stardust Shiyaku, and this is night 3 of the New Japan Pro Wrestling Road to New Beginning Tour 2021. And I think there's a big show Saturday, so be on the lookout for that, y'all. And toodle fucking Pippenton. I'm out of here.